moms. Welcome back to the OFM Business Hour. It's a few minutes after 6 p.m. I'm Olebogeng. I'm joined by Phillipa Geard. She's one of the speakers of the upcoming 4th annual Thriving Women's Entrepreneur Summit, which we touched on last night. And she is going to be talking about her journey in building RecruitMyMom.co.za. It's an 11-year-old company this year. We will continue to touch on the significance of mentorships and sponsorships in ensuring equality in the workplace with her. Here's my chat with her. Phillipa, thank you so much for joining us on the show. What prompted you to start RecruitMyMom.co.za back in 2012?
Yeah, thanks, Ole. Thanks for having us on the show. It was part of my own journey, actually, that started Recruit My Mom. I had worked in corporate and had found myself with a premature baby, unexpectedly arriving very early, and it really did change my career trajectory, if you like. I had planned to go back to work immediately after I'd had him, but as it was, he was extremely difficult, and that really wasn't what happened. So I took a career break, then moved back to South Africa. That was in the UK. We were in the UK, moved back to South Africa, had my second child, and it was then when I started consulting. I was doing a number of marketing consulting jobs, as many women end up finding themselves doing when they are trying to balance family and work. And it was during this period that I met a lot of other women who had the most incredible skills, be either locally or internationally, that were looking for work, but the recruitment agencies wouldn't take them seriously. And because of my consulting experience, I knew that there was a need amongst businesses for really good skills, but not necessarily having them all the time in office 8 till 5. And so it seemed ridiculous to me that in a country where we were so desperate for skills, that there were all these women out there that were trying to balance being mothers and their careers, but nobody wanted to help them to find work. So in 2012, I set out to build a website that would be able to reach nationally across South Africa, to be able to assist companies to more easily find these women. And so that was the birthing of Recruit My Mom in 2012. And of course, when we launched, nobody really knew what on earth we were or what we stood for. And it was only after we were a finalist for a business award on a radio station that we were able to really get our messaging out as to what it was that we stood for. And suddenly people were like, had this big aha moment of, oh my gosh, we can actually access these incredible skills for our businesses. And that's what really started the business off. What's been the highlight of your journey with your business over the last 11 years? I've had a number of highlights. And, you know, as a business owner, there are many highlights and many lowlights. But the standout for me was when we won the Santam Fair Lady Woman of the Future Award in 2019. And we won this award in recognition for the impact that we've made for the employment landscape of women in South Africa. And that for me was just such a, you know, as entrepreneurs, we don't look back on what we've done. We're just constantly looking forward as to what we still need to achieve. But just that point in time of a recognition of something that we'd shifted in the employment landscape in South Africa for women was for me an absolute highlight, because that's really what I set out to do when I launched the business. What would you say has changed or evolved about your business over the years? When we launched, we were doing a lot of educating of employers around possible ways of embracing flexibility. So flexibility has a myriad of meanings and people can embrace it in different ways, be it place or time flexibility. So we were doing a lot of educating with employers about, well, how do you do this? How do you bring on a skilled woman knowing that she's going to deliver an excellent service in terms of output to hire her, but still give her flexibility? Then COVID hit, and overnight we found that we didn't have to be doing the education job anymore as to how people could work remotely, that it was possible, that you could measure output, that people actually did their jobs when they weren't in office. And so we found that we've needed to focus less on educating people about flexibility. And now we do a lot more assisting in terms of, well, what does it look like if you bring somebody in office, but they want a level of flexibility? Or what does it look like to have a successful hybrid working model or a fully remote working model? So it really isn't about do it anymore. It's about now how to do it better. And that really has changed the landscape for us. That's pretty cool. Well, what would you say is the biggest misconception around female-led or driven businesses? Only one, Ole. I think I'm going to, I really do think that there's a belief out there that women are not as driven as men to succeed in their businesses. You know, Forbes released a statistic which showed that women-owned tech companies had a 35% higher return on investment than male-owned companies. I think that if more people knew that and understood that, they'd be flawed. There's a sense that women-owned businesses are limited to typically female-dominated industries like fashion or beauty or child, when that's not the case. I've met incredible entrepreneurs that are engineers or running tech companies, myself running a recruitment company. There's so many different industries that women actually are playing in. So I think there's a lot of misconception there, and that they have limited growth potential. Harry coaches many businesses. I'm sure he will, support me in this, in that there are many phenomenal female-led businesses that are successful, profitable, growing, and largely women-owned businesses employ more people. And so they really are an asset to our nation and our country.
What are your thoughts on mentorship and sponsorship in the workplace, and how necessary is this type of support in cultivating tomorrow's female execs or leaders?
Yeah, I feel quite strongly about this. I believe that both mentorship and sponsorship are vital. I don't think the same person can be a mentor and a sponsor generally. I think that mentors are there to be able to help females to thrive better in particular environments, and to point out things that could be doing differently in order to help them thrive, and also to be able to go and seek advice from somebody that's safe. And for me, then the sponsor, on the other hand, is somebody who's there, who is able to put that person forward for promotions or for special projects, or to be constantly putting them in the sight of senior management for, further advancement in their careers. And I think both are vital, particularly in companies which have a previously male-dominant culture or a patriarchal culture. And, there are many of those that still exist. And if it really are going to change the landscape of senior women in management, in order to be able to see this profitability growth, which we know is there when you've got a diverse leadership structure, is that has to change. And mentorship and sponsorship really does help that.
Her name is Phillipa Geard. She's the founder of RecruitMyMom.co.za. She's one of the speakers of the upcoming 4th annual Thriving Women's Entrepreneur Summit, and she was joining us on the OFM Business Hour. Quite interesting, her take that not the same person can have a mentorship and a sponsorship going at the same time. It's quite an interesting note that she made there at the end. There's still more on the OFM Business Hour this Women's Day. Stay tuned.
Jy luister na die OFM Sake Uur met Olebogeng.
My ma het gesê jy